Hi, it's Renata here. If it's your first time here, welcome to my channel, The Quant Girl, where we are going to talk about some topics in applied mathematics, in pure mathematics, in quantitative finance, and in Python program, because I'm a PhD in mathematics and a financial quantitative analyst, and I'm here to share with you some of my experience. So today we are going to talk about types of financial risks. So just keep watching the video and we are going to talk about it. We can start talking about financial risk, saying that we can divide financial risk into four principal types of risk: credit risk, market risk, liquidity risk, and operational risk. Due to variety risk, most of financial transactions involve characteristics of the four types of risk. One point here is that as instruments with the greatest market risk tend to have the most variable liquidity risk, market risk and liquidity risk are frequently worked together by a single group within financial risks. Another point is that in addition to credit risk, market risk, liquidity risk, and operational risk, many firms will also have an enterprise risk management group. So, in practice, we ended up having five principal areas of risk management. So, we are going to talk about each one of them in the next. We talk about market risk when we talk about risk associated to changing asset values. This type of risk is most often associated with the assets that trade in liquid financial markets, for example, stocks and bonds. The prices of stocks and bonds have fluctuations during the trading hours. The price of an asset changes as new information becomes available and investors reassess the value of the asset. Changes in supply and demand can also have influence in asset value. All financial assets have market risk. Even if an asset is not traded on an exchange, its value can change over time. Most of the time, for most financial instruments, we expect price change to be relatively smooth and continuous, and only rarely large and discontinuous. So, for this reason, market risk models often involve continuous distribution. Market risk models can also have a relatively high frequency, for example, daily or intraday. For a variety of financial instruments, we will have a lot of historical market data that we can use to evaluate market risk. Now let's talk about credit risk. In financial transactions, we have the risk of one party will fail to pay the other party. This is credit risk, and it can arrive in a variety of different series. For example, firms may extend credit to suppliers and customers, credit card debt, and home mortgage creates credit risk, and one of the most common forms of credit risk is known as default risk. It's the risk that a corporation or government will fail to make interest payments or to fully repay the principal on bonds they have issued. In the case of national governments, default risk is also known as sovereign risk. Default happens in a non-frequent way, and the simplest models of default risk are based on discrete distributions. Although bond markets are large and credit rating agents have been in existence for a long time, default events are rare. So, for this reason, we have much less historical data to work with when developing credit risk models compared to market risk models. For financial firms, counterparty credit risk is another important source of credit risk. While credit risk always involves two counterparts, when risk managers talk about counterparty credit risk, they are usually talking about the risk arising from a significant long-term relationship between two counterparts. Prime brokers will often provide loans to investment firms, provide them with the access to emergency credit lines, and allow them to purchase securities on margin. Assessing the credit risk of a financial firm can be difficult, time-consuming, and costly. So, for this reason, when credit risk is involved, financial firms often enter into long-term relationships based on complex legal contracts. Counterparty risk specialists help design these contracts and play a lead role in assessing and monitoring the risk of counterparts. Derivative contracts can also lead to credit risk. A derivative is essentially a contract between two parties that specifies that certain payments be made based on the value of an underlying security or a group of securities. Derivatives include futures, forwards, swaps, and options. As the value of the underlying asset changes, so too will the value of the derivative. As the value of the derivative changes, so too will the amount of money that the counterparts owe each other. So this leads to credit risk. Another very common form of credit risk in financial markets is settlement risk. Typically, when you buy a financial asset, you do not have to pay for the asset immediately. Settlement terms vary by market, but typical settlement periods are 1 to 3 days. So, practitioners would describe settlement as being T plus 2 if when payment is due to 2 days after a trade has happened. So let's move on and talk about liquidity risk. Liquidity risk is the risk that you will either not be able to buy or sell an asset, or that you will not be able to buy or sell an asset in the desired quantity at the current market price. We often talk about certain markets being more or less liquid. Even in relatively liquid markets, liquidity risk can be a problem for large financial firms. Liquidity risk can be difficult to describe mathematically, and the data needed to model liquidity risk can be difficult to obtain even under the best circumstances. Though its importance is widely recognized, Liquidity risk modeling has traditionally received much less attention than market or credit risk modeling. Current approaches to liquidity risk management are often primitive. The more complex approaches that do exist are far from standard. Now let's talk about operational risk. Operational risk is risk arising from all aspects of a firm's business activities. In other words, it is the risk that people will make mistakes and that systems will fail. Operational risk is a risk that all financial firms must deal with. Just as the number of activities that businesses carry out is extremely large, so too are the potential source of operational risk. That said, there are broad categories on which risk managers tend to focus. These include legal risk, that are most often risk arising from contracts, which may be poorly specified or misinterpreted, systems risk that are risk arising from computer systems, and model risk that are risk arising from pricing and risk models, which may contain errors or may be used inappropriately. As with credit risk, operational risk tends to be concerned with rare but significant events. Operational risk presents additional challenge in that the sources of operational risk are often difficult to identify, define, and quantify. Now let's talk about enterprise risk. The enterprise risk management group of a firm, as the name suggests, is responsible for the risk of the entire firm. At large financial firms, this often means overseeing market, credit, liquidity, and operations risk groups and combining information from those groups into summary reports. In addition to this aggregation role, enterprise risk management tends to look at overall business risk. Large financial companies will often have a number of business units, for example, capital markets, corporate finance, commercial bank, retail bank, asset management, and others. Some of these business units will work very closely with the risk management, for example, capital markets and asset management, while others may have very little day-to-day interaction with the risk, for example, corporate finance. Regardless, enterprise risk management would assess how each business unit contributes to the overall profitability of the firm in order to assess the overall risk to the firm's revenue, income, and capital. That's all for today. Hope you liked the video. Don't forget to hit the like button because it helps me a lot. And also, don't forget to subscribe to the channel so you can watch the next videos. So, see you next time in the next video. Bye!